Here we have a nurse scheduling problem, and it's similar to the one that we covered in class, and that the nurses work 5 consecutive days and then have 2 consecutive off days. So for example, if a nurse starts working on Monday, they'll work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they'll have off Saturday and Sunday. In this problem, we're also given salary information. So the nurses are paid on a daily basis, and they will get $200 per person for working a weekday, and then $400 if they work Saturday or Sunday. So we also have this information about the minimum number of nurses needed per each day. So on Monday you need to have at least 27 nurses, on Tuesday at least 30, on Wednesday at least 28, etc. So the objective of this problem is to minimize costs while making sure that you have enough nurses to cover each shift. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is calculate the weekly salary for a nurse on each shift. So there's more than one way to do it, but the way I kind of thought about it is starts in column I. So if a nurse starts working on Monday, then we know they work 5 consecutive days, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that means that they will have off Saturday and Sunday. A nurse that starts working on Tuesday will work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So they'll have off Sunday and Monday. And a nurse that starts working on Wednesday will work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they'll have off Monday and Tuesday, etc. Okay, so with that information, we can calculate how many weekdays they work and how many weekend days. So this Monday nurse works 5 weekdays, right, Monday through Friday, and they have off on Saturday and Sunday, so they work 0 weekend days. A Tuesday nurse has off Sunday and Monday, so that means they only work 4 weekdays and 1 weekend day, etc. So now that we have that information, we can calculate the total cost for a nurse on each shift. And if you remember, we were told that nurses are paid $200 per day for each weekday they work and $400 per day per each weekend day they work. So the Monday nurses, the ones that start on Monday, if they work 5 weekdays and 0 weekend days, then their weekly salary is $1,000. For the Tuesday nurses, since they work 4 weekdays and 1 weekend day, they get $1,200. And then the nurses that start on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, because they work 3 weekdays and 2 weekend days, their weekly salary is $1,400. And then the nurses that start on Sunday, they work 4 weekdays and 1 weekend day. So their weekly salary is $1,200. So now that we have the salary information, we can start setting up our Excel worksheet so that we can later put the inputs into Solver. So I'm going to scroll down. And just so I have the salary information available. Here I've just listed kind of these shifts as shifts A through G, and I've also written what day the nurse will start. So here shift A just means they start on Monday, shift B means they start on Tuesday. So if you remember, our objective is to minimize, and then here is where we're going to put our cost cells. So this is the weekly salary that you have to pay for nurses on each shift. So if you remember, we kind of wrote up here all of our calculations. So for the nurses that start on Monday, they'll get $1,000 per week. The nurses that start working on Tuesday will get $1,200 per week. The nurses that start on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday will get $1,400 per week. So I'm just going to drag this across. And then the nurses that start on Sunday will get $1,200 a week. Okay, so then this is our cost. And then here we're going to put in a sum product formula in a little bit. The next thing that we want to worry about is our constraints. So this matrix is the same as the one that we did in the nurse scheduling problem during our last class session. So I have our daily requirements here: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this column indicates that a nurse that starts on Monday works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and they'll have off on Saturday and Sunday. Kind of this column for the nurses that start working on Tuesday, this means they work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they have off Sunday and Monday. In this column, the nurses that start working on Wednesday, they'll work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they'll have off on Monday and Tuesday, etc. So this matrix is exactly the same as the illustration that's uploaded to CourseWorks right now for the nurse scheduling problem we covered in class. So now I'm going to write out our constraints. So here in this table we're given the minimum number of nurses needed. So on Monday you need to have at least, this will be where our sum product formula cells go. So we're going to write the inequality here. So on Monday we need to have at least 27 nurses. I'm just going to copy this down. On Tuesday we need at least 30. Wednesday at least 28. Thursday at least 25. Friday at least 23. Saturday at least 20. And Sunday at least 12. Okay. And then here we have our solution cells. So for now I'm just going to put arbitrary numbers. Okay. And then now we're going to write in our sum product formula. So our sum product, our first array will be the weekly salaries for an individual nurse on each shift. So that's cells B17 through H17, comma. And then our second array is our solution set, which is in row 27. So B27 through H27. And we're going to lock that. So again, our formula is equal sum product B17 through H17. And then we've locked our solution set, which is B27 through H27. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to drag this down so that it fills in our constraint cells. And I'm just going to delete this and change this from currency to general. Okay, so now we have our kind of set up and are ready to go into Solver. So I'm going to go to Data, Solver. Okay, so our first thing is our objective, which is cell G17. So here, our total cost, and you want to make sure that you selected min for your objective. And then our solution set, our changing variable cells, are in row 27, so B27 through H27, and then we have our constraints. Okay, so I have the constraints that our solution set, B27 through H27, must be integers, because you can't have half of a decimal of a nurse, and they should also be greater than or equal to 0, because you can't have a negative number of nurses. And then we also have our last constraint, kind of the minimum staffing requirements per day. So that's in cells J19 through J25, and they must be greater than or equal to the minimum number of nurses you need to have to cover the shift. So 27 through 12, and that's in column L. Okay? So I'm going to leave it as simplex and hit solve and tell Excel to keep the solver solution and give us an answer report. So then in our answer report, here you remember these were our arbitrary numbers, and Excel tells us that we should schedule 14 nurses to start on Monday, 7 to start on Tuesday, 0 on Wednesday, 4 to start on Thursday, 2 to start on Friday, 7 to start on Saturday, and 0 to start on Sunday for a minimum cost of $40,600. And again, it's okay if you have slightly different numbers here, as long as your minimum solution, your final value is $40,600. So I'm just going to click back onto our Excel setup. Right, so you can see it here. And then what you want to write is just your solution. So based on our solution for a minimum cost of $40,600, the nursing manager should schedule 14 nurses to start on Monday, 7 to start on Tuesday, 0 to start on Wednesday, etc. So again, it's okay if you have a different set of numbers here, as long as your minimum cost is $40,600. So this problem is very similar to the one that we covered in class. You just want to make sure that you have the correct weekly salaries up here. And I'm just going to scroll back up again. So there's more than one way to do it, but the way I set it up was just to figure out if a nurse starts on a particular day, what days do they have off, and what does this tell me about how many weekdays they work and weekend days they work, and then I can kind of plug those numbers in to get their weekly salaries. And that is how you set up homework problem 2.